So let's run through this really quick. Say that night, that first night, he went to the door, nobody answered. He ran up to the greenhouse. He found Kurt. Oh my God, there's my best friend. He's dead.
Yeah.
He then proceeds for 2 more days
Yeah,
to
to run
ride
around
around
town. Yes, exactly.
looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And Tom's not pissed off that this guy has been wasting his time, making him look like an idiot. Like he
Yeah,
can't find Kurt, I mean, it doesn't look great for him, He
yeah,
has, again, for his ability as a PI, it's like, okay, he could have found Kurt 2 days prior if Dylan had just, I mean, that is exceptionally bizarre.
yeah. Like why? Because I know Tom he details that part of his PI kit is that he goes everywhere with like a camcorder and a camera and a voice recorder and a blah blah blah.
Right.
Why is a flashlight not in that kit? Why were you not? Okay, it was dark and it was raining. It was night. Got it.
Right.
But they do make these like really cool inventions called flashlights that allow you to see
Mm.
in the dark. And like when you get out of your car in the driveway, if you just like with your flashlight, you can see in front of you and see that there's a garage with like a floor above it, like right in front of you.
Yeah.
And if you keep looking, you keep walking, you'll see that there's some stairs right around the side there.
Yeah.
That if you follow those up, there's like a whole other area that you haven't looked for him at all.
Yeah.
So there's an idea.
I mean, it's just so bizarre. Again, it's why you go when I just go, well, I don't think he's working for Courtney. And then it's like something it does not add up here in the worst way. And I don't know, what that means.
I don't know that I can convince myself that he was like in on it.
No, yeah.
But like but also at the same time, that means that he's just like extraordinarily incompetent and bad at his job.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point where he would actually try to make sure that this case doesn't move forward so that he can either continue selling case manuals or be able to continue to just have his name associated with Kurt Cobain and nobody else,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but there are a lot of things he needs to answer that he has never answered. And by the way, I will post this in our group, but he has also been trying to pilfer members of our group by, direct messaging them, private messaging them. So allegedly Grant has a Sunday Zoom that he does only for invited people. And he will answer questions. These are not to ever be filmed or shared publicly. He will answer questions privately. So again, he's gatekeeping. When the reason we ever ask for donations is because we don't sell a case manual because we want that information out there for free. Like our forensic paper, we just please download it, print it, drop it off to people. Yeah. I don't know, put it in people's mailbox. I don't care. Just get it out there, And
it's like, even the stuff we did, like merch, so a t-shirt was what, $25? And of that $25, you got,
I think we made $3. Yeah. And again, when people wear the shirts, people go, oh, Kurt Cobain. And then they want to talk about it. It's so people, and that's why when the site goes back up, and it's coming back, Courtney. So when the site goes back up, we're going to have free downloads so that if people can't afford to buy a t-shirt, we just get them print on demand, or they want to just print flyers or print their own thing. We're going to have a bunch of designs up there that people can download for free and put a sticker on your car, put a vinyl. The more that they try to get us to not talk about Kurt being murdered, the more we will make sure that people can talk about it and do that at the least cost to everyone. So, so please keep coming at us, and we will keep finding creative new ways to make sure that people are talking about what happened to Kurt. Yeah. So Tom is again refusing to answer things publicly, and I just don't. It makes no sense to me.
I want to know how I get an invite to this, because I got a whole bunch of questions I would love to ask.
I think you're blocked, babe.
He blocked me on Facebook. He did that ages ago.
Yeah.
But still, I want an invite. I got some questions. Can I just email him my questions? Do you think he would reply?
I think if you pay his fee, you could pay his fee maybe. He charges people whatever that is, $30 an hour or something. Yeah, it's expensive. When I was going through receipts on PayPal the other day to find something, and I was looking at all the money I sent Tom, and I was like, well, guess that's my bad, live and learn. But yeah,
And we all
so
make mistakes.
yes, expensive ones. So about Dylan, so once we started talking about Dylan, I had a few people go like, okay, well, I know Dylan and this is weird. But what's been more interesting is how many people have come forward and said, I know Dylan and I've always thought he did this. And I am so fucking glad someone had the guts to say this because Dylan did this. So I'm going to tell everybody 3 stories. You may have heard me tell them before. Everybody needs to remain anonymous because Dylan is still alive and he's not a nice person. So, and as you all know, if I get killed, Rachel will avenge me. So
Absolutely.
you better kill both of us and everyone else on our team because, we, nobody is ever going to, our people are too clever. Like if I die of some bizarre choking accident or if I all of a sudden do drugs or something, it's like,
we're all going to know, right? Yeah. No, none of us are suicidal. None of us are using drugs. We're all very careful eaters.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, that's right. So the first story, a friend of mine who's in the music industry as well, like in the kind of punk scene. And he said that he had some mutual friends with Dylan and they were all at a bar one night. Earth had played and somebody started talking to Dylan about Kurt. Dylan does not ever accept talking about Kurt. He doesn't want to hear about it. He doesn't want to talk about him.
Pretends like he doesn't know him. Usually.
Yeah, you think there might be some guilt in there, some latent, So he ends up going outside. He gets kind of huffy, and then he ends up going outside and shooting up. And when he comes back in, he's kind of nodding out. And this is the thing about people talking about, when Joe was sort of nodding out in his statement.
Makes you more honest.
It makes you more honest because the 3 times Dylan has admitted to killing Kurt, he has been nodding out. So he's nodding out and then he's talking about how he was there the night Kurt died. He did not say at this point that he killed Kurt, but he in a future one of the next stories I'm going to tell he does. So at this point he says, yes, I was there when Kurt died. I was there with a girl named Bonnie. So he specifically mentioned Bonnie. And he kind of just talked about, he was one of the last people to ever see Kurt alive. So we know that. Now, before I go on to the next story, do you want to tell the story about how Courtney said was it at Bumbershoot or a different show where the 2 girls were there and she brought them backstage because they were holding up the signs and she told them, I'm telling the story now.
Go for it because I don't know that I know it as well as you do, to be honest.
So she's at there. It's a whole show and girls are there and they have signs saying Kurt was murdered and they're holding them up and the girls end up going backstage, Courtney being Courtney, she, screaming at them, et cetera. And then she brings them backstage and she's just like hugging them, but like angry at them. And then she ends up telling these girls, now this is third hand, but, again, adding this up with everything else we know, she ends up telling these girls, don't worry, Kurt was not alone when he died. Dylan was there with him the whole time. I mean, So there's that. The third story that I'm going to tell is that there is a bouncer who worked, from the Seattle scene. He worked at a bar, and he said that, he knew kind of everybody, loosely knew Kurt, and he said that Dylan and his dealer, and we don't know, I don't think it's Caitlin he's talking about here. So it's a male dealer. Dylan and his dealer came into the bar one night and they had tried to murder this person's best friend. So Dylan and his dealer tried to murder this guy's best friend. Fortunately, they didn't succeed. But that again just speaks to the type of person that, that Dylan is alleged to be. And the last story, which I think is the most compelling.
I was wondering if you were going to tell this one.
Yeah. This one, someone reached out to us recently, and this is somebody who has, she's very intuitive. She has felt for 30 years that Dylan has, was the one who took Kurt's life. But in the scene, she never really heard. Nobody was like saying like, oh, it's Dylan. Like nobody was really saying that. So she didn't know what to do with the information that she had. Sorry, did that just go through my Somebody was calling me, and it was
Oh, no,
okay.
it kind of like glitched for a second, but no noise came through.
Okay, I told John I was going to lose my mind if that happened. Now I'm going to have to get him to edit this. Okay, so just give me a second.
You're okay.
Okay, so this girl, she's very intuitive, and she has sort of known for 30 years or so that Dylan did this. But nobody in her scene was kind of, knew this about Dylan. So there wasn't really anyone to talk, that she could talk to.
Yeah.
And she was a little bit frightened, as we all are. And so she was high at some point with Dylan, and he was nodding out. And as he was nodding out, he said, "I killed my best friend." And somebody else that she was there with kind of looked at her and said, "Did you just hear that?" And she said, "What? No." Like, she just pretended she didn't hear it because she didn't want to cause any issues. But she's held on to that, for 3 decades. And I know it's sat with her and given her a lot of, I mean, how do you live knowing something like that, And
it would eat me alive. Yeah,
I know, and she didn't deserve to hear any. Like, she's not involved. She's a lovely, she's a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I think, I've told her this, but because when we first put out Joe's statement, it was like, what if Dylan didn't do this and we're ruining this man's life? Like, it was terrifying to me because I don't want to be the person who is responsible for, for doing that. And so fortunately, unfortunately, we found out all of these other things, and we went, okay, well, we're going to do it, and we're going to, put this out. But I believe with, with everything in me that Dylan did this. And of course, I don't believe that he was the one who, he didn't mastermind the whole thing. But there's no doubt that he, that he was there. Whether he actually pulled the trigger, I don't know. I believe he probably gave Kurt the hot shot because he used to shoot Kurt up all the time. And so, but he was there and he did watch Kurt die. So,
I mean, I had the same feeling, like when we very first got started with this and we're naming him and talking about his involvement, I was like, ooh, what if we got it a little wrong? What if, some of our wires are crossed? And
nobody deserves that, right? Like,
nobody deserves that. But also, like, the more that we found out, the thought that kept coming to me was, if people want you to speak nicely about them, they should behave better. We're not saying anything that we have not been told to be absolute fact or that we have not discovered to be absolute fact.
Yeah.
And so, if all of that together makes somebody look like a really bad person.
Yeah, exactly.
That's through their own fault. They should have behaved better and made better choices.
Yeah.
If they wanted people to speak more highly of them and say good things.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the one question that we sort of haven't gone down the rabbit hole as far as Dylan is concerned is, do you think that Dylan's dad working at the Department of Defense has anything to do with Kurt's death? Because a lot of people have associated Dylan with the CIA, the DOD, or obviously the DOD. Like, do you think, I personally don't believe it at all. I just simply believe that if there's anybody above Courtney, I think a few people know. I don't think that they had anything to do with the planning. And this is just my opinion. I just think you see it on Dateline in 2020 all the time. Somebody murders their husband because they signed a prenup and want the money. Yeah. So that's what I think. But what are your thoughts on the DOD connection?
I honestly didn't even really think about that until you just said that. But no, because we don't even know what type of. I've never heard Dylan talk about his dad.
No. Yeah.
We have no evidence that his dad is still alive or that his dad was still alive in '94. How he feels about, like, we know nothing about that relationship or what any of that looks like. But I personally don't think it goes up that high.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is strictly a, something that the SPD will handle. It's just people, committing, murders like anybody else would. And it'll be solved and handled this way it would be for anybody else. So.
Yeah. except with a, likely a very, very like an OJ level trial that
Mm.
everybody is watching. Although attention spans these days, I mean, who knows how long people will pay attention. But so was there anything else you wanted to say about Dylan?
Well, I mean, I've got all of the stuff about him and Kurt's relationship. I don't know if you want me to go into all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've got the notes that I made, and then I've also got some things in a book, the Everett True book, that I've got earmarked to read passages from.
Perfect.
So, the first time that Kurt and Dylan met was on May 3rd, 1986. It was during or just after Kurt's first ever live performance, which was with Dale Crover and Buzz Osborne of the Melvins. Kurt did his poetry over heavy rock music at Gesco Hall in Olympia. It's a performance space associated with Evergreen State College. This trio called themselves Brown Towel, but because of a misspelling on the poster, they ended up being called Brown Cow instead of Brown Towel. Attendance was sparse, but there were two noteworthy people there that night: Slim Moon, who was a scenester from Olympia, and his good friend Dylan Carlson. Both were blown away by Kurt and said that they knew he was a part of the Melvins' entourage, but now realized, quote, "Wait, this guy has talent," end quote. Dylan went up to Kurt afterward and told him that the show was one of the best things he'd ever seen. And from there, the two kept running into each other at shows in Olympia, and they became friends. Then cut forward to the fall of 1986. And the timeline on this, maybe it's just because I'm particular and I pay attention to these things, but it doesn't quite add up.
Okay.
There's some discrepancies.
Did Tom Grant have something to do with this timeline?
Not this time, but Dylan does. So, but so in the fall of 1986, Kurt got Wendy to put down money to help him rent out 1,500 East 2nd Street in Aberdeen, which is literally just right around the corner from Wendy's house. It was a decrepit shack a few hundred yards from Wendy's house. Matt Lukin, Kurt's longtime friend and the bassist for the Melvins, moved in with him. Lukin stayed for about 5 months before moving out. Dylan was supposed to take Lukin's place. He was currently unemployed, so Kurt tried to help him get a job laying carpet at a hotel in Ocean Shores, because Kurt currently had a job that I believe he wanted out of. And so he was trying to get a job for the two of them at this hotel laying carpet. So they made numerous attempts, but found the guy in charge drunk to the point of not being able to stand. So the job never worked out. Like, they literally went there numerous times and the guy either didn't answer, or they saw him passed out, or like it was a mess. So Dylan ended up only staying with Kurt at the shack for 2 weeks. And then Kurt stayed another 2 months after that, after Matt moved out. And he started dating Tracy. So then in the fall of 1987, this is one of the discrepancies, because if you do the math of that, fall of 86 to fall of 87, that's a year. If he stayed 7 months, where was he for the time in between?
Right. Okay.
My guess is they just did some estimates and didn't care that it didn't line up.
Yeah, anyway. I don't remember what I had for lunch last week, so I'll give them. I'm not no private investigator, so I'm just I'll let him have this. Yeah.
So the fall of 87, Kurt moved into 114 Pear Street in Olympia with Tracy. Tracy had been living in a tiny studio apartment there. It was a shoebox, according to Kurt. They paid $137 a month, which included electric, hot water, and garbage pickup. Can you freaking imagine?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
so Kurt and Tracy lived there for a little over a year before they moved into a small 1-bedroom in the same building. So that's what I was talking about, where there's 3, because there's, right. I think like the garage area, because when we were there,
okay.
I think that's the little shoebox that they initially lived in.
Oh, okay. And then they moved to the front.
And then they moved to the front one.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
So eventually Dylan and Slim Moon moved in next door. because Kurt worked at night and Dylan was unemployed. They hung out a lot. They shared their disdain for Calvinists. They hung up strings for tacky lamps from the 50s. Tacky lamps from the 50s, which was a thrift store purchase, and had barbecues in the backyard. Sometimes Chris Novoselic would come over and they'd inevitably break out a bottle of red wine and start to act up. The police showed up one time after the three of them attacked an abandoned Cadillac with some lawn chairs.
Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also this I didn't know until I was doing this research. So I think everybody knows that Jason Everman is the one that paid the $606.17 for them to record Bleach. What I didn't know is that they met Jason because he was a friend of Dylan's.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people because this next person was also a friend of Dylan's. Kurt befriended Mark Lanigan, who was also a known longtime friend of Dylan's. In August of 1989, Kurt and Mark collaborated along with Chris on bass and Mark Pickerel from the Screaming Trees on drums and formed a blues band they called The Jury. This is where Kurt first recorded Lead Belly's Where Did You Sleep Last Night, which wound up on Mark's solo album, The Winding Sheet. Dylan was around for all of this, and he told Michael Azerrad, which is he wrote the book Come As You Are. The only book that Kurt collaborated with in writing.
Right, yeah.
But he told Michael Azerrad that their best song was Grey Goose and that it was almost like watching one of the great English blues rock bands getting its feet. It was pretty incredible. Kurt also said he'd like to try a blues band again sometime. At Kurt's wedding on February 24th, 1992, Dylan and his then current girlfriend were present with only 4 other guests: Dave Grohl, Alex McLeod, and their soundman Ian Beveridge, and the Nirvana guitar tech Nick Close. Kurt cried. Courtney didn't. Dylan was apparently flown in to be the best man and to bring heroin because Kurt needed to do just a little bit to get married, apparently.
I think that's valid. I think I would be right there with him.
Yeah. Same. Let me see what else I have here. Oh, I thought this was interesting. Dylan apparently used to tell Toby Vale, Kurt's one-time girlfriend, that she was like a member of the Manson family. I'm still not really sure exactly what that means because according to Toby, she was just really innocent. Because I mean, she was anti-drug. She was, but she would hang out like with the Melvins and stuff a lot.
Right.
And apparently, because of that, Dylan told her that she was like a member of the Manson family.
And see, the thing is that I feel like Dylan probably like would be the type of person to collect Charles Manson's art and stuff. So he has to know that those girls were being severely manipulated, but they were also doing plenty of drugs and having sex with literally anyone on the planet. Like whatever Charlie wanted them to do, they were doing. And that included plenty of drugs, crime, sex. So is that what he's saying, Toby is? Because, a follower who has no mind of her own, because that is the biggest insult I've ever heard. If somebody called me that, I might have to go Manson on them. Just like, I mean,
literally,
like what a shitty thing to say.
No, it is. It's Kurt also helped Dylan to record his first EP, which I thought was interesting. Nirvana and Dylan got thrown. These are all just kind of like little tidbits that I found and thought were interesting. Nirvana and Dylan got thrown out of the Nevermind album release party for starting a food fight. Kurt threw ranch dressing at Dylan and Chris, and they responded in kind, and the bouncers threw them out. And then the next day, Dylan came over and picked Kurt up to go shoot guns.
Like you do.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah. You know, might as well. But I think it's because Courtney, I know, has adamantly maintained that Kurt never went shooting, that was not blah, blah, blah. But there are numerous stories from Kurt, from Dylan, from other people talking about the two of them, where they talk about how the two of them would go shooting.
How does that serve her? Like, what does that lie?
I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe she wants people to think that he's ignorant about guns.
Right.
I
And
don't
that's
know.
why he'd buy a giant shotgun. Okay.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
get, bird shot and set it for light load. And I
Right.
don't know.
Okay.
Maybe she thinks that'll answer some of people's questions about why that's the absolute wrong gun for.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
She's always thinking that one.
Yeah. That's what we'll call it. Kurt seemed to continually do drugs with Dylan. They would rent out hotel rooms for weeks, just the two of them, to shoot up undisturbed. And including using his time off between the in utero American and European tours, doing drugs with Dylan. Both after getting with Courtney and at the end of his life, Dylan was one of only a handful of people that was allowed to be with Kurt. Courtney never ran him off like she did with so many others, including Slim Moon for a time. That was one I thought was really interesting because there's, I'm blanking on her name now. The girl that there's a picture of her with Kurt where everybody thinks it's him and
Christmas
Toby.
party. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she talks about how, like, right after Kurt and Courtney got together, that just like one by one, all of Kurt's Olympia friends were no longer allowed around Kurt.
Right.
And she even went into detail with the story of like what happened to her and like the accusations that Courtney made. And let me see if I can find it here really quick, because it really rubbed me the wrong way.
So when we talk about Courtney, and we know that she has read, books about cults. So again, because this is going to relate back to Dylan, why do cult members push away family and friends? They do that because, of a few reasons, obviously to create dependency, eliminate dissonance, deepen the commitment, create that us versus them mentality. But, the other thing is that Courtney didn't want anyone who could help Kurt or convince Kurt that Courtney was bad and that what she was doing was not right. So the fact that she didn't exclude Dylan from Kurt's life when she excluded everybody else who could have helped or cared for Kurt, that tells me something.
Yeah.
It means he's not an emotional lifeline for Kurt. She obviously knew that Dylan would never stop her abuse. Yeah. She's not allowing anybody in Kurt's life who would stand up to her. So I think that tells us a lot about who Dylan is. Yeah.
So here's a story. It's about a page and a quarter. Drug use to increase the pair's paranoia. They're talking about Kurt and Courtney. Courtney moved into another hotel, the brand new Omni Park Central, but their distrust of outsiders wasn't helped by their own actions. I recall Courtney calling me up from their lobby of the Omni, beside herself with anger. Sorry, this is Carrie Montgomery speaking.
Okay.
Beside herself with anger, clearly off her head, recounting some garbled story about how she'd been accused of being a prostitute and a thief, and how she was being refused re-entry to her husband's hotel room because she'd wandered down to the gift shop in the lobby to buy cigarettes in her underwear, which was always ripped and had holes in it, as was her wont. She wanted me to call up reception and talk to them on her behalf. They wanted to arrest her, agrees Carrie, who was present. They thought she was a hooker. She was all like, Carrie. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know her. I swear to God. Kurt wouldn't go down and get her. I had to go down and get her. And she was so pissed at these hotel people that there was a little concierge stand by the elevator banks. And every time she went by there, she'd steal the flowers off of it. Scenes like this were common when Courtney was around. The mayhem her lover created on stage was far outstripped by her everyday life. It's rare for people like Courtney to exist, even rarer that they're allowed to get away with such behavior. Kurt was so sweet in New York, he gave us money to go shopping. I know you guys probably want to go buy some expensive cosmetics, so here's some money, Carrie says, imitating Kurt's voice. While Courtney and Carrie and Wendy shopped for clothes, Kurt went down to Avenue C to score heroin. People wait in line, he told Michael Azerrad. Lawyers, business people in three-piece suits, junkies, lowlifes, all different kinds of people. How does he know we want expensive cosmetics, continues Carrie. Of course we do, but then Courtney got pissed. She didn't want him to buy me anything. She just wanted him to buy her stuff, like he was going to run out of money. The end of that New York trip was the last time I ever talked to Kurt. It was so stupid, it's embarrassing to even say it. Carrie lowers her voice. Kurt and Courtney started telling people in their closest circle they were pregnant, and Wendy got freaked out. It was all a bit much for her to take. So when I got back from New York, I got a phone call from Courtney where she says, Wendy tells me that you said that I love Kurt for his money and you love him for his heart. And I say, I would never say something that stupid. Can I talk to Kurt, please? He can't talk to you right now. He's too upset. You better call Wendy and get this straightened out. I'm not playing this bullshit game. Courtney, I'm not talking, you better call Wendy and get this shit straightened out. And Carrie said, I'm not playing this bullshit game, Courtney. I'm not calling Wendy and talking about some shit that didn't happen. Let me talk to Kurt. No, you can't talk to Kurt. So that was how I got kicked out of the deal, just like Ian Dixon. And, well, maybe not Dylan so much, but most everybody else got systematically taken out of the equation. Kurt and Courtney's relationship was tempestuous, Goldberg says carefully. They definitely loved each other. At times, they definitely hated each other. He had a very romantic sense of his commitment to her, and at the same time, she drove him crazy.
You know, we indict a lot of these people for not helping Kurt and standing up for him. And when I think about what I would have done at 23, 24 years old, not being able to talk to Kurt and having this monster, you know, treat me like shit and claim that I did things that I didn't do, I might want to wash my hands of it too. I mean, I'm not letting anybody, certainly Carrie, there's nothing she could have done, I don't think, but any differently. But
yeah, I don't know. Some of that stuff is just, it's so messed up. I feel like I would have wanted to fight back and help him see what she was, but also, you know, I know that everybody has a limit, and when it's complicating your entire life, and it, you know, like there's so many pieces to it that it's really hard to say exactly what I would do in somebody else's shoes, you know?
And if you literally, either if you talk to Kurt and he tells you, I don't want anything to do with you anymore because Courtney's made him do that, then you're like, well, okay, like, fine, you know?
Exactly.
Or, you know, if you literally can't talk to Kurt because she won't allow it, then I'm not sure what can even be done. How do you even get to him to do this, you know? So, I mean, you know how they say if a psychopath, if a serial killer wants to kill you, they're probably going to do it because they're watching you, they're studying you, they've had this plan for a long time. You're just sucker punched. You have no idea what's going on. And I think, you know, it again just talks about Kurt and the people around him. I think there are people who still don't believe that Courtney could do that, which is just astonishing to me, considering all of the horrible things she's done. And everybody knows the other tremendously terrible things she's done. I mean, look at the stuff that just came out in Evan Dando's new book about stuff she did to him. And he still doesn't talk about her as the monster that she is, you know? So, you know, it's just, you know, she had him, she had things planned out too well from the very beginning. Yeah. For, you know, for anything to have saved him, I think. But,
I agree. There's another excerpt here that's probably about the same length. It's actually about Dylan. It's a story about Dylan.
Okay, perfect. Let's finish on Dylan and we'll end on that.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So it was while Kurt was living at the shack that he fell under the influence of Olympia. He journeyed up to the city as an unpaid Melvin's roadie, carrying Buzz's amp when they played one of the state capital's tiny community-led punk clubs. Aberdeen's underground scene was minuscule. When Chris eventually agreed to start rehearsing with Kurt, a year on from being given the fecal matter tape, pretty much anyone who had a quiff would come to visit their practice space, an empty flat above Chris' mom's beauty parlor. It was the only place to go. For equipment, the pair, plus some quote-unquote jock guy, Bob McFadden, on drums, used a cheap mic and beat-up guitar amp. Chris had given his old one to Matt Lukin in return for Matt bailing him out of jail after an incident involving some rednecks in a parking lot. Chris and Kurt didn't like their hangers-on. They referred to them disparagingly as the Haircut 100 Club, after the lightweight British pop band of the same name. Kurt didn't like the people who were hanging out at the shack either. Most would be underage drinkers with little respect for the place. Kurt was more into acid or pot. He was totally into getting wasted, whatever the time of day, Chris recalls. He was a real mess. In the early spring of 1987, Matt Lukin left the Melvins when Buzz decided to quit drinking momentarily, and the Melvins said that the Melvins should become a dry band. And Matt was like, no way. Buzz then used the excuse of a move down to California to say the band was breaking up. They weren't. Kurt also began to fall out with his flatmate. Matters came to a head when he laid masking tape down the center of the house and informed Matt that he was forbidden to cross the line. It was too bad the bathroom was on Kurt's side. Sorry, I don't know why that's so funny to me. Lucan moved out and Dylan Carlson moved in. Carlson was a self-taught genius with wild, unkempt hair, a messy beard, and strong views on life. Kurt tried to find him a job laying carpets. It didn't work out. The boss at Kurt's workplace in the Ocean Shores Hotel was too drunk to open the door to them. The pair became best friends. I first met Dylan in '85, recalls Rich Jensen. He must have been 13 or 14. He was a dark kid. He was like if William S. Burroughs is an icon of darkness, a little William S. Burroughs kid. I had a sense he came from a rural, gun-toting family. He was kind of fun, but he had this very dark character. I knew kids in high school who were into carburetors and cars and amps and computers or whatever. Guns and heavy metal and weird religion were Dylan's categories. Dylan was fucking nuts. God bless him, remarks Seattle musician Kelly Canary fondly. Once I asked him what he'd been doing. He was like, oh, I just realized I didn't know anything about teeth, so I went to the library and learned about teeth. That was Dylan. He didn't know anything about teeth, so he spent 5 hours in the library learning about teeth. One time, Dylan was passed out, Slim Moon, also a former member of Earth, recalls, and nobody else was home. Chris was banging on the door, but it was locked. So he crawled up the back of the house to the second-story window when suddenly he saw a double-barreled shotgun right in his face. Dylan always kept a gun under his bed. Dylan used to talk about how he wanted to kill people and how if he didn't make it as a rock star, he'd have to become a serial killer. He had this dog that he found on the beach that was burnt. He set it up as an altar near his bed. It was this burnt dog with candles and rosaries and this other pseudo-religion's iconography.
I mean, I don't know that anyone has ever said that they thought I would be a serial killer, you know, if I wasn't, or I mean, Dylan said it about himself. So I think people might have said I was kind of a weirdo, but I mean, that's pretty, I think it's pretty telling, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think it is. And to say that if you're not going to make it as a musician, that's the job you're going to take, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know if he's taken anyone else's life besides Kurt's, but, definitely.
I don't know that we'll ever know.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. If Dylan wanted to come and talk to you on the podcast, would you talk to him?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Dylan, if you want to come have a chat with us, we'd love to have you on. If anyone else has any information they want to share about Dylan, like I said, somebody wants to keep something anonymous. As you can see, we never give any names because, I mean, I think Dylan is still a threat, at this point.
No, I agree.
So,
I would also love to hear what he has to say. He has done a really excellent, like he did, Kurt and Courtney, and I think like a few interviews here and there very early on where he talked a little bit about Kurt and Courtney and what he knew and or his version of events, should I say. But he, at one point, shut down, quit talking about it, and has since proceeded to act like he never knew Kurt. Kurt didn't exist. Like none of that ever happened. And I don't understand that. How you can just, I don't know, like I've seen where people have said, like, when he's doing interviews that they're literally told that they're not allowed to talk
Yeah,
about, like, they're not allowed to bring it up.
talk about Kurt. Yeah, it's crazy. I
Like, I could
mean,
understand if he doesn't wanna talk about his death or,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
specific things like that, but just you can't acknowledge my relationship to Kurt at all,
Yeah,
period?
exactly.
Why? What are you hiding?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's interesting because the fact is that the forensic journal that was released, I mean, there's no question that Kurt's death was a homicide. So the
Mm,
issue is that people who are still pretending like it wasn't, I mean, they have to come on and answer. If I mean, no one has to do anything, sorry, but if they wanted to come on and give their piece, I would be, more than willing to do that. But it's like you have to be able to acknowledge that it doesn't matter what you think Kurt's mental state was at the time, that the
mm,
science shows that that is not what happened. So he
yeah,
never ever used that shotgun, period.
no,
So,
period.
so I'd love to hear what any of them have to say. So,
Yeah,
I'm sure that other people who have done drugs with Dylan have heard probably more of the story, than
yeah,
than we've heard. So,
yeah,
so yeah. So thank you so much for doing this. And
mm,
we have done Callie, we've done Dylan. At some point, it might be good to talk about the girls, talk about Bonnie, Jessica,
yeah,
Jennifer. We could probably work that into one episode. So we
yeah.
will work on something like that next. And I will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.